Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Microsoft Pulse. We have with us Adam, Tom, and myself. What we're going to do is we're going to go over the Microsoft roadmap, which is divided up into 4 sections: in development, rolling out and launched, and canceled. It's a short list today, so we shouldn't be too long. Tom, why don't you go ahead and kick us off?
So I will go ahead and kick off with a couple that are down at the end of the particular list, and ones that normally I wouldn't touch, but hey, I kind of like the idea. They both seemingly are related. Microsoft Edge, get your favorite tools in Microsoft Edge sidebar, and one called Microsoft Edge sidebar that says easily access commonly used tools while you browse the net, including calculator, internet speed test, and unit converter. The other one has a little bit more information where it says the sidebar enables users to access Edge features side by side with their browsing windows. Available features include Discover, Bing Search, Outlook, Office, Games, and tools such as Unit Converter and Internet Speed Test. Administrators can control the availability of the Microsoft Edge sidebar by using the Hub Sidebar Enabled policy. I think that's kind of cool if there's certain things that you use on a regular basis, such as unit converters, things like that, that could make it really quick to just go to the sidebar, click something over there, and you have what you're looking for. You can do it with bookmarks too, but I just think this adds a little bit more functionality to Edge and makes Edge more of a option for browser use, and something that adds a little bit more that others are not currently doing. So I kind of like that. We should be seeing those in August, and that will be going out to Microsoft Edge worldwide.
Great. Adam?
Yeah, there's a ton of updates going through when
There
you're looking
really
at what's
is.
going on for U.S. government cloud stuff related to Compliance Center. Specifically, there was a lot of new updates for data loss prevention and endpoint data loss prevention. I won't go into all of them, but a lot of the cooler features. So endpoint DLP is just what you'd expect with normal DLP, but obviously just pushed down to endpoint devices that you're managing. It's a pretty simple concept, but basically rather than saying normal DLP, you're typically saying, okay, when a file is shared externally or when an email is sent externally, I want to do stuff. Endpoint DLP is just proactively scanning the documents and the systems and stuff that are on your endpoints themselves. A couple that I'll just give a shout out to so you guys know the type of stuff that they're going through and doing. You can now customize and replace the out of the box justifications with your own text. You can go through and do sensitive stuff that like restricts Bluetooth devices of what they can download or not, because obviously I could basically make it so that if someone wants to connect an endpoint to my system, they're having to connect directly through the Wi-Fi or through like a hardwired device rather than Bluetooth, so that way it's this stuff that I can have a little bit more control over. There's even stuff like going through and looking at archived file support, advanced classification, which is about going through and just finding more details, or even going through and saying low, medium, and high confidence and how likely you are to think that this is an item you're selecting with DLP. Right now, up until now, I've definitely seen this with my clients. If you're going through and creating a DLP policy, you didn't have the nuance of saying how compelling you thought it was a DLP thing. You basically just had to say yes it was or no it wasn't. The idea behind doing DLP confidence levels is if you have something like, say, a driver's license number that may be more false positives or a social security number, well, how strict do you want to be with your reactions? Maybe if it's a social security number or credit card number and there's only one instance of it, and pretty confident that it's a thing, I want to block that. But maybe if I'm not that confident, I don't want to disrupt the day-to-day business. But if I'm not that confident in a list of 700 of them, I'm probably more likely to want to block that data, just because I don't want a situation where someone's sharing 700 potential credit card numbers. You'll have the nuance to be able to do that in the government clouds once these updates come through. Most of them are scheduled for release in August of this year.
Great. I'd like to talk about the video collections page in SharePoint. So SharePoint video collection pages makes it easy to gather and display all of the videos from a SharePoint site collection in one place. Now, this feature is going to be particularly helpful for schools, universities, and other organizations that tend to share videos in Teams channels. With this feature, you'll be able to create a tab in your team channel that links directly to the specific collection of videos. I think this is going to be great, especially for training and teaching, so that you can record those lectures and have them all available from one tab. So instead of having to go into each meeting lecture and find the meeting, hoping that it's not expired, this I think is a great avenue. And that's rolling out in June for worldwide. Does anybody have anything else in development that they want to talk about?
I was good.
Let's move on to rolling out. Tom?
So I'm going to go ahead and not touch the one that I'm sure that Tamara's going to touch here. So I'll go down to Microsoft Teams Modern Modern Meeting Experience on the web. So there's been a difference in terms of how you experience a meeting. Gosh, I cannot talk today. And Teams on the Teams client or on the browser. This is going to allow the browser-based version of Teams to be more in line with what you experience in the Teams client. So as they phrase it, the modern meeting and calling experience will be available for Teams on the web in Chromium and Edge browsers, including improved pre-join, dynamic view, and the updated control bar. That's rolling out, should be out there by the end of this month, and that's going to Teams worldwide. So I think that for people who do use the Teams browser client to get to everything that they're doing, they're going to see less of a difference between what they see on the Teams client and what they see in the Teams browser. So look for that soon to a client near you.
Great. Adam?
I'm going to just do one that I think is funny, even though I haven't really necessarily seen it. They had Microsoft Teams attendee restriction to remove another attendee from chat for government clouds. So apparently, and I hadn't seen this, but I'm now sad that I hadn't seen this, up until this feature comes out, and maybe I'll have to test it with some of my customers this week, other attendees that weren't the organizer of the meeting could just remove other people from the chat.
Ooh, ouch.
Of going through on it. Now, I wouldn't imagine anyone would be willingly doing this maliciously, but I could just see a petty situation where someone's going through and removing their coworker because I think it's funny. So that's probably something that you want to restrict to the organizer of the meeting. So they're going through and doing it from restricting that, so we'll only be the organizers. This is listed as June of this year, so I imagine this may already be out for some people, but it is still technically in the rolling out phase. But I read that and was like, I didn't know that was a thing, but that's hilarious.
Yes, it is. I'd like to talk about manage meeting options for the DoD. I'm so excited this is finally here. Organizers will now be able to modify the user experience or customize the safety and security settings for their meetings using the meeting options features. Now, I was just in the DoD, and yesterday it had all of the meeting options. Today it has a subset of the meeting options. So the administrators have gone in there and turned off some of the things that you could control. And now it's a more reduced option. So it allows you to decide who has to wait in the lobby. It allows you to decide if callers can bypass the lobby or if they should be announced. And I believe it also controls the chat. It's not showing the presenter selection, which I think is sad. So we'll see how that pans out. Then also the co-organizer meeting role.
That was the one I thought you were going for.
GCC and worldwide. And that means that the organizer will now be able to share control by assigning a new co-organizer role to people they invite. Now, co-organizers will have almost all the capabilities of the organizer, including management of meeting options. This means also that you can have multiple people setting up breakout rooms within the meeting itself. So really looking forward to that. That's rolling out this month for GCC and worldwide. Anyone else have anything for rolling out?
I'm going to throw one more out there just because I love the word. Microsoft Teams, Moodle Learning Management System integration. So
Moodle.
in addition, Moodle. In addition to integration with Canvas and Blackboard, Microsoft is now partnered with Moodle Learning Management System to deliver seamless integrated learning experiences. Microsoft Teams Meeting LTI and Classes LTI apps are now available within Moodle.
And I know we've talked about this before, but Microsoft List Calendar View conditional formatting, this is such a big win. It was so sad where we had that time period where we couldn't do it. But items in a list calendar view can be color coded based on conditions or rules specified on the fields available in the view. So these rules can be managed using the Format Current View section of the calendar view. And that's rolling out to everybody, GCC, GCC High, DoD, worldwide, and it's rolling out this June. So that's exciting to look for.
I was going to say it's probably worth noting though that if you're going, oh, that's how we used to do calendars in SharePoint 2010 or whatever, and they integrate back and forth. It's not
different.
Yeah, this is for, you've got a Microsoft list. The list has date type information in there. You've decided to show that information in a calendar view format instead of the normal list view format that you'd have. Those you're going to be able to color code how they show up on the calendar, but this does not mean that information can sync over to Outlook and stuff like that. So I still think they need to have more of a classic calendar, for lack of a better term, in there. But just keep in mind that it's better than what you've had before. However, it's not the calendar you were used to having. It's not your father's calendar, which unfortunately in this case you wanted your father's calendar.
Very nice. Tom, did you want to talk about something coming out and launched?
Yeah, there's like 4 items in launched.
Go for it.
And these are all things that we've talked about before. The only one that is not nerdy and not Defender for Office 365 related, in OneDrive, rename add to OneDrive shortcuts. So we've added the ability to rename shortcuts you've added using the drive to add to OneDrive features within OneDrive Web. That's launched, went to the whole spectrum of tenants, GCC, GCC High, DoD, and worldwide, and you should have it in your tenant as we speak.
Great. Adam.
Yeah, I'll go ahead. I'll talk about 2 of the 3 of the Defender ones. So there are 3 different updates for Defender for 365. Defender for 365 is tooling sets that used to be ATP and some of the other stuff that you could do with it to proactively protect your accounts. But the 2 that I thought were cool were priority account protection for government clouds. The idea behind this is basically, obviously, at some organizations, you have people that are more visible than others or people that are arguably more important to your IT staff. Like as me as an IT admin, I'm probably going to care more what's happening to my executive staff than I am the guy who works in the mailroom. No offense, guy who works in the mailroom. They are much more likely to get attacked. They're much more likely to be visible. They're much more likely to get spearphished. They're much more likely to have their email addresses out there to external parties, stuff like that. So you actually have the ability to go in and specify priority accounts, and that will do any number of things, but mainly what it does is it allows you to focus on these individuals by going through and looking at different protection or more proactive protection models, as well as surfacing stuff that's happening to them in filterable tagging ways, so that way you can just be more on top of it. I actually really like this feature. This is one of the things that I feel like is somewhat of a separation from how IT was done 10 years ago, that a lot of the partners we talk to are not taking advantage of. But there is enough nuance and differentiation that there's no reason I can't have a stricter spam filtering policy for my board, who's probably more visible and more likely to get spam than the rest of my organization. And this is one of the sections of Defender for 365, is even allowing you to prioritize these accounts. So like for your security alerts, you get notified on them. It's filterable, stuff like that. The second one that I thought was also kind of cool is the idea to automatically allow spoofing and impersonation related messages and the admin submissions. So basically, when you're going through and looking at what's going on inside the Microsoft 365 Defender portal, there's basically a section that you can go through and submit messages for scanning to Microsoft that are included in that is something like spoofed messages or impersonation messages. Now, there is a nuanced debate here on whether there's ever a legitimate reason to spoof or impersonate someone. But at the end of the day, decent amount of services use that. Maybe I'm using a sending service like SendGrid or Mailgun or something like that, but I want it to seem like it's coming from your salesperson, or I'm wanting to seem like it's coming from our CTO, something like that. Well, you can go through and you can basically impersonate that person and look like the message is coming from them. Where if you actually go in and dig into the actual message itself, it's coming from a different sender. Well, in general, Microsoft would normally look at these more scrupulously. But if your business is doing that and you have a reason to do it, you can essentially whitelist those use cases where you say, hey, I realize this is a spoofing attempt. I realize this is an impersonation attempt, but I'm telling you this is okay and we're fine with it, to not have any disruption in those messages from coming to your users. Basically saying, yes, we've signed off on it. It's okay. Just make that user experience more in line with what you're actually wanting as an admin.
Great. Thanks, Adam. And then there's really nothing else on launched. Let's go ahead and move to cancel. There are 2 items on cancel. One is Microsoft Teams manage what attendees see, and a new release date is under discussion for this feature. So far it's canceled. But what it does is attendees will only see shared content and presenters that you bring on screen. And this is for GCC High, DoD, GCC, and worldwide. So we don't have the ability to manage what attendees see, and they're discussing a new release date. Then also in Microsoft Teams, we have real-time messaging protocol streaming support for GCC High and DoD. The feature is postponed indefinitely, and Microsoft will communicate new timelines when that's available. But what it does is it enables support of your users to stream their Teams meetings to large audiences through real-time messaging protocol, including endpoints outside of your organization. So if you were looking forward to those 2, you're going to have to wait. But that's what's new in the Microsoft roadmap.
Sounds good.
Did you have any closing comments, gentlemen?
Can't even think of anything witty to say, so yeah. Considering I couldn't speak for half of this session, I don't even want to attempt it.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for attending, everybody, and have a great day. Bye now.
Bye, guys.